Chapter 1. The Spark and the Dance. Monday morning. The first hint of dawn painted Westbrooke Falls Elementary in shades of amber and gold as Simone Harper balanced on the stepladder in the main hallway, a garland of paper maple leaves in one hand and a stapler in the other. She'd been here since 6 a.m., determined to transform the school into an autumn wonderland before the first bell rang at 8:15. 6 months in this small South Carolina town, and she still felt like she was proving herself with every bulletin board display, every parent interaction, every moment of her carefully reconstructed life. The Harvest Festival was her chance to show this community that she belonged here, that she could create something beautiful and meaningful for their children. Focus on what you can control, she reminded herself, the mantra that had gotten her through the worst of the wedding cancellation fallout. Make it perfect. Make it matter. The ladder wobbled as she stretched to attach another cluster of leaves to the ceiling tile, and she gripped the metal frame tighter, just a little higher, just a few more inches to get the spacing exactly right. Whoa there! Strong hands steadied the ladder as a deep voice cut through her concentration. Sammy looked down to find herself staring into concerned brown eyes beneath a perfectly lined-up haircut. The man holding her ladder steady was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of quiet strength that seemed to fill up space without demanding attention. "Thank you," she said, suddenly aware that she was wearing her oldest jeans and a paint-splattered Riverside Elementary t-shirt, her natural hair pulled back in a messy bun that had seen better days. "I thought I had it balanced." "These old ladders can be tricky." His smile was gentle, transforming his serious features. "I'm Damon Jefferson. My daughter Zahara is in your class." Zahara's father. Sammy felt her professional smile slip into something more genuine. Zahara Jefferson was one of her favorite students. Quiet, thoughtful, with an artistic eye that produced the most beautiful drawings Sammy had ever seen from an 8-year-old. "Mr. Jefferson, of course. Zahara is wonderful. She has such a gift for art." Sammy climbed down the ladder, acutely aware of how the morning light caught the gold flecks in his dark eyes. "I'm sorry you caught me looking like I've been wrestling with craft supplies." "You're making it beautiful in here." Damon's gaze swept the hallway, taking in the carefully arranged autumn displays, the way she'd used natural elements to bring the outside in. Zahara's been talking nonstop about the decorations. She said her teacher has magic hands that make everything pretty. Heat crept up Sammy's neck at the compliment. "She's very sweet. I hope she's excited about the festival. I know it's her first one here in Westbrook Falls." Something flickered across Damon's expression, a shadow that was there and gone so quickly she almost missed it. "We moved back to town about a year and a half ago. She's still adjusting to changes." There was a story there, Sammy realized, the same kind of careful phrasing she used when people asked about her own fresh start in small-town South Carolina. "Change can be hard," she said softly, "but Zahara's doing beautifully. She has such a gentle spirit, and her artwork—" Sammy gestured toward her classroom door, where several of Zahara's drawings were displayed in the hallway showcase. "She sees the world differently than most adults do. It's a gift." Damon's entire face softened as he looked at his daughter's work. "She gets that from her grandmother. My mama always said art was how some people talk to God." "That's beautiful." The words slipped out before Sammy could stop them, more intimate than the professional tone she usually maintained with parents. Something about this man made her forget to keep her walls up. "I should let you get back to your decorating." Damon shifted the ladder slightly, bringing him closer to where she stood. "But actually, I was hoping to talk to you about volunteering for the festival. Principal Bell said you might need help with setup." Of course he wants to help. Sammy had learned that Westbrook Falls parents took community involvement seriously. It was one of the things she loved about this town, the way everyone pitched in, the way children grew up knowing they belonged to something larger than just their individual families. "We definitely need volunteers," she said, pulling her phone out to check her festival coordinator notes. "What kind of thing were you thinking?" "We need help with everything from setup to cleanup." "Whatever you need most. I own part of Sharp Impressions, the barbershop down on Main Street, so I'm pretty flexible with my schedule, and I'm good with my hands." The words came out innocently enough, but something in his tone made Sammy's pulse quicken. "Good with your hands," she repeated, then realized how that sounded and felt her cheeks warm. "I mean, that's very helpful. Manual labor is always needed." The corner of Damon's mouth twitched like he was fighting a smile. "I can handle manual labor." "Get it together, Simone." She scrolled through her phone more aggressively than necessary. "Actually, I could use help with the entrance display. It's supposed to be a fall harvest theme with hay bales and pumpkins, but it's a two-person job and my co-coordinator had to back out last minute." "I'd be happy to work on that with you." The offer was simple, professional, perfectly appropriate. So why did her heart skip when he said it? "Great. Perfect. We could meet after school tomorrow to go over the plans, if that works with your schedule." "It works." They stood there for a moment, the morning light streaming through the tall windows, autumn leaves from her garland drifting down around them like confetti. Sammy was acutely aware of how close they were standing, how his presence seemed to make the hallway feel smaller and warmer. "Miss Harper." 8-year-old voices echoed down the hall as the first wave of students arrived. "Look how pretty everything is." The spell broke as children rushed toward them, chattering about the decorations, and Sammy shifted back into teacher mode. But she caught Damon watching her interact with the students, something warm and appreciative in his expression that made her feel like she was glowing from the inside out. "I should get Zahara to class," he said as his daughter appeared around the corner, backpack bouncing with each step. "Daddy." Zahara ran to them, her face lighting up when she saw the decorations. "Miss Harper, it's so beautiful. It looks like the forest is inside our school." "That's exactly what I was hoping for," Sammy said, crouching down to Zahara's level. "What's your favorite part?" Zahara studied the display seriously, her artistic eye evaluating each element. "The way you made the leaves look like they're dancing, and the poem." When Damon knocked on her open classroom door at 5:30, she looked up from a sketch of the entrance display to find him holding 2 cups of coffee and wearing a smile that made her forget what she'd been calculating. "Thought you might need caffeine," he said, stepping into the space that had become her second home over the past 6 months. Gloria at the barbershop said teachers run on coffee and determination. "Gloria Jefferson, your aunt, right?" Sammy accepted the cup gratefully, inhaling the rich aroma. "She's been so welcoming since I moved to town. And she's absolutely right about the coffee." "Gloria's got opinions about everything and everyone in Westbrook Falls. Usually she's right." Damon settled into the student chair across from her, looking comically large in the child-sized furniture. "Fair warning, she's probably already got theories about why I volunteered to help you with festival planning." Something fluttered in Sammy's chest. Theories? Small-town aunties see matchmaking opportunities everywhere. His tone was light, teasing, but there was something more serious in his eyes. "I hope that doesn't make you uncomfortable." Should it make me uncomfortable? The question slipped out before she could stop it, more flirtatious than professional. Damon's coffee cup paused halfway to his lips. That depends. On what? On whether you mind Gloria being right for once. The air in the classroom shifted, became charged with possibility. Sammy felt her cheeks warm as she looked down at her festival plans, suddenly unable to hold his gaze. We should we should probably focus on the entrance display, she said, though what she wanted was to ask him to elaborate on that comment. Absolutely, Damon agreed, but she could hear the smile in his voice. Show me what you're thinking. She turned her sketch pad toward him, grateful to have something concrete to focus on. I was picturing hay bales arranged in tiers, with pumpkins and gourds scattered throughout. Maybe some corn stalks for height, and battery-operated string lights woven through everything to make it magical when families arrive. That sounds perfect. He leaned closer to study her drawing, and she caught his scent. Something clean and masculine with hints of aftershave and the faintest trace of the barbershop's pomade. You've got a real eye for this. Have you done event planning before? Not exactly. I like making things beautiful, creating experiences that make people feel welcome and happy. She realized how that sounded and added quickly, for the children, I mean, and their families. It's more than that, though. Damon set down his coffee and really looked at her, the kind of attention that made her feel seen in a way that was both thrilling and terrifying. The way you talk about creating experiences, the way you've transformed this classroom, it's about making people feel like they belong somewhere special. His words hit closer to home than he could know. Belonging somewhere special was exactly what she'd been searching for since her world fell apart in Atlanta. Is that obvious? She asked, attempting lightness. Only to someone who recognizes the feeling. There was something vulnerable in his admission, a hint of his own story that made her want to lean closer. What feeling is that? Knowing what it's like to need a place where you fit. He picked up one of Zahara's drawings from Sammy's desk, a family of trees with intertwined branches. When we moved back here, I was so focused on making sure Zahara felt stable that I forgot about my own need to feel settled. And do you feel settled now? Damon's eyes met hers over his daughter's artwork, more lately than I have in a long time. The confession hung between them, weighted with meaning that went far beyond festival planning. Sammy felt her carefully maintained professional boundaries shifting, like autumn leaves being rearranged by an unexpected breeze. Zahara's art has really blossomed since the school year started, she said, steering back toward safer ground. She has such a unique perspective on color and composition. Has she always been artistic? Since she could hold a crayon. Her grandmother, my mama, used to say Zahara saw feelings in everything. Happy trees, sad clouds, brave little flowers. His voice softened with memory and loss. Mama passed when Zahara was 5, but she left behind boxes of art supplies and the absolute conviction that creativity was a gift to be nurtured. She sounds like she was wonderful. She was. She would have loved you. The words came out simply, honestly, and made Sammy's breath catch. The way you see Zahara, encourage her talent. Mama always said teachers like you were angels in disguise. Mr. Jefferson said, Damon, he corrected gently. If we're going to be working together, and if Gloria's going to have theories about us anyway, you might as well call me Damon. Damon, she repeated, liking the way his name felt in her mouth. I'm Sammy. And I want you to know, Zahara isn't just talented. She's got such a good heart. She's always the first to include someone who's sitting alone, and she shares her art supplies without being asked. You're raising a remarkable little girl. Something shifted in Damon's expression, gratitude mixed with something deeper. That means more than you know, especially coming from you. Why especially from me? Because you see her. Really see her, not just the quiet kid in the back who doesn't cause trouble. You celebrate what makes her special instead of trying to make her fit some standard mold. Sammy felt her heart tug at the fierce parental love in his voice. Every child deserves to be celebrated for who they are. Not every teacher believes that. Well, I do. They looked at each other across the small space of pushed-together desks, festival plans forgotten, Chinese food growing cold. The classroom felt full of possibility and the kind of tension that had nothing to do with entrance displays and everything to do with the growing awareness that they were both exactly where they were supposed to be. We should probably figure out the logistics, Sammy said eventually, though she made no move to break eye contact. Probably, Damon agreed, not moving either. The moment stretched between them like a held breath, full of things they weren't quite ready to say. Then footsteps echoed in the hallway, and they both startled back to reality as Mr. Henderson, the night janitor, appeared in the doorway. "Evening, Miss Harper. Don't mind me, just doing my rounds." "Of course," Sammy said, her voice slightly higher than usual. "We were just finishing up the festival planning." "Festival's going to be real nice this year," Mr. Henderson said with a knowing smile. "Real nice indeed. You two have a good evening now." After he'd moved on, pushing his cart down the hallway, Damon and Sammy looked at each other and started laughing. "So much for subtle," Sammy said, covering her face with her hands. "In a town this size, subtle was never really an option anyway," Damon pointed out. "Besides, there are worse things than people thinking we make a good team." "Is that what we make?" she asked, peeking at him through her fingers. "A good team?" "I'd like to find out." The simple honesty of his answer made her drop her hands and really look at him. Here was a man who seemed to see her stability as a strength rather than a limitation, who valued her care for his daughter, who made her feel like the responsible, nurturing parts of herself were exactly what made her special. "I'd like to find out too," she admitted. Damon's smile was warm enough to chase away every doubt she'd carried since Atlanta. "Then let's plan the best Harvest Festival entrance display Westbrooke Falls has ever seen." "Deal," Sammy said, and meant it in ways that went far beyond pumpkins and hay bales. Wednesday afternoon, parent-teacher conferences had always been Sammy's favorite part of the school year, the chance to sit across from parents and share the wonderful, unique things she'd discovered about their children. But as 3:30 approached and Damon Jefferson's name appeared on her schedule, she found herself checking her appearance in the small mirror she kept in her desk drawer and wondering when exactly her professional excitement had become something more personal. She'd arranged Zahara's portfolio carefully on her desk, artwork that showed months of growth and confidence, writing samples that revealed a thoughtful inner world, reading assessments that proved steady progress. Everything that made Zahara Jefferson special, documented and ready to share with her father. When Damon knocked on her classroom door at exactly 3:30, wearing dark jeans and a button-down shirt that brought out the warm brown of his skin, Sammy felt her pulse quicken in a way that had nothing to do with professional pride. "Right on time," she said, gesturing toward the parent chair she'd positioned next to her desk rather than across from it. "Thank you for making time for this." "Wouldn't miss it." Damon settled into the chair, close enough that she could smell his aftershave again, see the way his eyes crinkled slightly when he smiled. "I've been looking forward to hearing about how she's doing." "She's doing wonderfully," Sammy began, opening Zahara's portfolio. "But more than that, she's blossoming. Watch." She pulled out a drawing from September, careful, precise, but somehow hesitant, and placed it next to one from the previous week that burst with color and confident strokes. Look at the difference. Damon leaned closer, his shoulder brushing hers as he studied his daughter's work. The second one is so much more alive. That's exactly the word I would use. She's found her artistic voice, and it's beautiful. Sammy flipped through more examples, aware of how Damon's attention was divided between the artwork and her face as she talked. She's also become more social. Remember how quiet she was the first few weeks? Almost painfully shy, Damon confirmed. I worried about her making friends. Look at this. Sammy pulled out a photo from her phone, Zahara laughing with 3 other girls at the reading corner, completely relaxed and animated. She's found her tribe, and she's become one of my most reliable helpers. She has such a nurturing spirit. She gets that from her grandmother, Damon said softly, and maybe from her teacher. The comment hit Sammy somewhere deep in her chest. I just try to create an environment where children feel safe to be themselves. It's more than that, though. Damon set down the portfolio and turned to face her fully. She talks about you constantly at home. Miss Harper said this. Miss Harper showed us that. You've made her feel special in a way she hasn't in a long time. She is special. Any teacher would see that. No, Damon said firmly. Not any teacher. You have a gift, Sammy. The way you see children celebrate their uniqueness, Zahara needed exactly what you offer. What do you mean? Damon was quiet for a moment, seeming to weigh his words. The past couple of years have been hard for her. Big changes, adjustments. She'd gotten so careful, so worried about doing everything perfectly to make sure people wouldn't. He trailed off, then started again. You make her feel like it's safe to be joyful again. Sammy felt her heart clench at the careful way he spoke about his daughter's fears. Children are more resilient than we give them credit for, but they need adults who believe in their worth unconditionally. Is that what you needed too? The question came out gently, but with an insight that made her breath catch. What do you mean? Someone who saw your worth unconditionally. Damon's voice was soft, careful. You have this way of talking about creating safe spaces for people to be themselves. It sounds like you know what it feels like to need that. The observation was too perceptive, too close to the wounds she kept carefully hidden. We're here to talk about Zahara, she said, deflecting. Of course. But he didn't look away, and she could see understanding in his eyes that made her feel exposed and oddly comforted at the same time. What else can you tell me about her progress? They spent the next 20 minutes going through Zahara's academic work, but Sammy was increasingly aware of the current running beneath their professional conversation. The way Damon asked thoughtful questions about his daughter's emotional needs as well as her academic ones, the way he valued her insights and trusted her judgment, the way he looked at her like she was remarkable instead of just reliable. Is there anything I should be working on with her at home? Damon asked as they neared the end of the scheduled time. Just keep doing what you're doing. She feels so loved and secure with you. That's the foundation everything else is built on. Sammy gathered the portfolio, trying to ignore how reluctant she was to see him leave. She's lucky to have you as her father. I'm the lucky one, Damon said, then added more quietly, and so is anyone who gets to be part of her world. The weight of his words settled between them, heavy with implication. Sammy looked up to find him watching her with an expression that made her forget all about professional boundaries and appropriate teacher-parent dynamics. Damon, she started, not sure what she intended to say. I know this is probably crossing a line, he said, his voice low and honest. But I need you to know what you've done for Zahara, the way you've helped her find herself again. It means everything to me. You mean everything to me. The confession hung in the air between them, raw and real and absolutely terrifying. Sammy felt her carefully constructed walls trembling, felt the attraction she'd been trying to ignore blazing into something that could no longer be denied. This is complicated, she whispered. I know. You're Zahara's father. I'm her teacher. There are boundaries, professional considerations. I know that too. Damon leaned closer, his eyes never leaving hers. But I also know that I haven't felt this alive in years, and I can't pretend that's not because of you. Damon. Tomorrow night, he said softly. After the festival setup is done, after Zahara's asleep. Would you have dinner with me? Somewhere we can talk without worrying about who might see us or what theories Gloria might develop. Sammy stared at him, her heart pounding against her ribs. Everything logical told her to say no, to maintain appropriate boundaries, to protect herself from the kind of messy complications that came with falling for a parent. But everything else, her heart, her intuition, the part of her that had been carefully frozen since Atlanta was screaming yes. Just dinner? She asked. Just dinner, he confirmed, and conversation, and maybe figuring out if this thing between us is as real as it feels. Sammy looked at Zahara's artwork scattered across her desk, thought about the trust this man was placing in her with his daughter's education and emotional well-being, considered all the ways this could go wrong. Then she thought about the way he looked at her like she was extraordinary instead of safe, the way he celebrated her nurturing nature instead of finding it boring, the way Zahara had blossomed under the care they'd both provided. Okay, she said, the word barely above a whisper. Okay? Okay to dinner, okay to conversation, okay to figuring out what this is. Damon's smile was brilliant, transforming his entire face. I was hoping you'd say that. As he gathered his things to leave, Sammy realized she was hoping for a lot of things she hadn't dared to want in over 2 years, hoping that maybe this time her heart wouldn't lead her somewhere she didn't belong, hoping that maybe this man who saw her worth so clearly would never make her feel like a consolation prize, hoping that maybe, just maybe, she was finally ready to believe in happily ever after again. Tomorrow night, Damon said from the doorway, his voice carrying a promise that made her pulse race. Tomorrow night, she agreed, and for the first time since Atlanta, Sammy Harper let herself believe that tomorrow night might be the beginning of something beautiful.